really good news for you. You don't need any special knowledge or training to learn how to nose and taste. The olfactory system that you were born with maps directly to the most ancient part of your brain, and that is called the limbic system. And the limbic system is connected to emotion, to memory, and all of those wonderful things that I hope, good memories, are evoked when you're drinking whiskey. So when you're inhaling a whiskey, these aromatics go up into your nose, they stimulate the receptors in the roof of your nasal cavity and send a message to the back of your brain that says, flower or smoke, get out of the house. When you're tasting a whiskey, you're going to stimulate the receptors on your tongue that also send a message to your brain, and that message, the tasting message and the nosing message converge and create a cornucopia of flavor to make the whiskey experience something truly exceptional. Let's pause here so that we can get a cross section of your head. You got that? Looks pretty good, right? Did you see where the receptors are sitting at the roof of your nasal cavity? So as we're inhaling our whiskey in, it passes and stimulates those receptors, as I said, but also on the exhale, we're also passing through those same receptors. So we have what we call retro-nasal olfaction. And while I'm nosing and tasting a whiskey, I always pay attention to the exhale as well, because there's all sorts of surprise and secret and wonderful aromatic notes that are found both on the inhale and the exhale, aka retro-nasal olfaction. When you first nose and taste a whiskey, whether you are a newbie or whether you are an aficionado and very seasoned, I think really the reaction often is, I like it, I don't like it, and no, or yes, which are all complete sentences. I think that when we nose or taste a whiskey, we should just sink into it and be confident, right? So trust your instincts, trust your biology, trust who you are and what you bring to the table biologically and culturally that give you the power to say you like something or don't like something. So don't get so hung up on that. Don't worry about it. And let me tell you a story. When I first started working in Scotland in the whiskey industry, everyone told me, you're gonna love, you have to love, it's the best kind of whiskey, Scotch finished in sherry cask. So I was told over and over again, this is the best kind of whiskey, Scotch finished in sherry cask. So it's whiskey that was aged in Scotland for a period of time, and then they finish it or they mature it in a cask that used to have sherry in it for some time to give it that sherry finish on it. And I just felt like, oh man, I don't really like that. I don't like that. There's something about it that I didn't like. Well, it turns out that a lot of times when we clean the sherry butts before we actually put whiskey in it, some of the sulfur notes remain in the cask if it's not done well. And I happen to be very, very sensitive to that. Not everybody is. There's going to be things that you're sensitive to that I'm not. So I think that we should all just have the confidence to know that some of us have blind spots and some of us are super sensitive to certain things, and that's okay. So I don't like sherry very much, sherry finished scotches. There's very few that I like. Some do it well, and I'm fine with that. And then finally, there's something else that gets in the way. So if confidence isn't getting in the way and laying in front of you, it's also something else called language olfaction interference. And that's a fancy way of saying that it's really, really tough to smell something and then describe what it is you're smelling at the same time. Okay, so these two parts of the brain are running interference with each other. It's like, I'm trying to be sensual and nose and have the gods tell me about all these beautiful things in my brain that I should be smelling. And then also I'm trying to chatter about what it is I'm smelling. And really that's a very tough thing to do. And I like to talk about it. It's kind of like rubbing your belly and patting your head at the same time, which I practiced for this video. Guess what? Humans can detect over 1 trillion smells. 1 trillion. That's an unbelievable amount. It's not as much as the American national debt, but it will take almost as long to get through, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe the debt's a little bit more. But what is it actually that we're smelling? What is it that's going into our nose? Well, we call those organic molecular compounds. Organic molecular compounds smell. They have a smell. Can you believe it? Those little teeny things have smells. So what is an organic molecular compound? Pray tell. Well, let's harken back to 10th grade. Were you paying attention? I wasn't, but I am now because it has to do with whiskey. So let's look at this guy. Do you remember that? That's right. That's the periodic table of elements. And when two or more elements decide they want to be friends and share electrons, we call that a molecular compound. So a molecular compound is H2O. Y'all know what that is? Water. 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. But I said organic molecular compound. What makes it organic? Throw that up there again. Here's your quiz. What makes that organic? I'm waiting. It's the presence of carbon. That's very simple. So organic molecular compound, or when 2 or more elements are formed, and there must be the presence of carbon. So what happens then is that these organic molecular compounds fly off of beer and steaks and smoke and your dog and your cat and your lover, and you get the point, right? So these things are everywhere, and I find that pretty exciting. Do you? That's because I'm a nerd. Ding! Oh, there's my lo-fi. Notice that I got a message on my computer. Dear Heather, did you actually add notes like pear and banana into your whiskey? Great question. Thank you so much for asking. Fabulous. No, I didn't actually add banana or pear into my whiskey, but from the way a lot of whiskey wonks talk, I could see why you might think that, because they'll go on and on about cinnamon, pear, chocolate, banana, toffee, honeysuckle, orange, paper, Windex, water, and pen. A lot of it's crap. Some of it's okay, but you get my drift, right? So when it comes to whiskey, what actually happens? So when you are mashing or fermenting, you're cultivating flavors. You're cultivating those smelly, organic, molecular compounds, right? And one of those might be something called isoamyl acetate, and it looks like this. See that 3D goodness right there? That's isoamyl acetate, and what that smells like is banana, and it can exist during or cultivate during the whiskey making process, but it also exists in a banana. So these organic molecular compounds, these smelly molecules, can actually exist in many, many places in nature. And we will get into how we get those molecules and cultivate them to create fabulous whiskey along the entire whiskey process. Stay tuned.